Welcome, everybody, to Straight Shooter Wrestling Podcast. I'm one half of your host, Santi, here with Steve. How are you, Steve?
Oh, well, this is a new one for us, buddy. Early morning recording, well,
I know.
midday recording now, and it's a weird one for us today. And we kind of got through the WrestleMania Hangover. That was a lot of wrestling over 5 or 6 days. Thank you so much to all the fans and followers for your increased support. We've seen everything from the TikTok to the YouTube to the Twitter all growing. So I just want to show my gratitude and hope everyone had a great WrestleMania season. We're about 2 weeks past it, and yeah, I'm still buzzing from it, man. What about you?
Well, I mean, like my WrestleMania hangover, I think our WrestleMania hangover was like almost like a real hangover. So we both got very sick. You got COVID. Yeah. I got a cold plus strep throat. Not to one up you, but strep throat is way worse than COVID. I just want to throw that out there so that I can get sympathy points. But that's part of the reason why we missed last week's podcast. We also figured, you know what? It's a good break. It's WrestleMania, the end of WrestleMania season. So, I mean, why don't we make today's podcast a WrestleMania Hangover podcast? We're going to be talking about the Raw and SmackDown after WrestleManias, all the shenanigans that have been going on with backstage rumors with the likes of potentially GCW being bought, Brock Lesnar not appearing in shows that he was advertised for, etc., etc. And of course, we'll always, we'll always finish it off with Where's Veer, but Veer's here, and we should all fear Veer. So that segment, unfortunately, is done. But Steve, Raw after WrestleMania. Can I just throw it out there that I think it might be safe to say that the Raw after WrestleMania is no longer special?
Here's the thing. I will agree with you slightly on this, but my big thing is, and I saw a lot of this in our comments, Texas really got hit with a tornado of wrestling. It wasn't just WWE. They had AEW. They had NXT Stand and Deliver. They had all these smaller indie guys there. Texas was so wrestled out by Monday nights. I even feel these hardcore fans that came for, the Raw after Mania, I think they were just exhausted.
Yeah.
Like what Mania did, we were exhausted and I stayed up to watch. We were supposed to record right after Monday Night Raw, and we were both done.
I did not want to see another suplex, another promo. I you know what? I think that's a fair assessment. I was wrestling out for a while there, where all I wanted to do was just tune out and not think about professional wrestling. And maybe that's how the fans felt, because they were quite flat, even in moments where in past years, in past Raw after Manias, the pop would have been insane. Let's talk about Cody Rhodes. Cody Rhodes coming out for the first time on Monday Night Raw in almost 7 years, with enough pyro to celebrate New Year's, and the reaction was fairly flat. Like, I'm not saying it was a negative reaction. I think for the most part, I think the audience is fairly on board and over on Cody Rhodes, more so than we are. But the larger wrestling audience is over on Cody Rhodes, and it didn't feel like that same buzz or pop that, say, the likes of Brock Lesnar got when he came back, Bobby Lashley when he came back. There's just been, I will say this, I felt like the pop was hard to differentiate between the debut of Veer and the return of Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, and obviously, Cody's lasted a little bit longer. There was some Cody chants, but it was half-hearted. I find, actually, this week's Raw in, I can't remember where were they?
Was that the Detroit one?
Detroit, that's it, Detroit. This week's Raw in Detroit, Cody was over. And that Miz TV segment, I loved everything to do with it. I feel the crowd was more involved with it. It was really flat. I even posted on my TikTok the night of, and I had half the people in the comments saying the fans are dead, or Cody's not as over as WWE are gonna hopefully want it. But I think this week in Detroit really showed something different. The Veer coming out, attacking the Mysterios last Monday was actually a genuinely decent pop. I think people are just so happy that they're not going to get the vignettes anymore.
Yeah.
So I feel everyone was tired. You and I, like we said, we were very, very tired. I didn't want to watch wrestling either. But it just, the Raw after Mania is still going to be that special one because like I think next year in LA, you're getting like people with a lot of money first off going to be at this event. People that are going to travel different distances. I think next year's could be very different. A couple of years ago, out of Dallas, well, Dallas was a lot longer. I think a couple of years ago. What was it? 8 years ago?
Yeah, 32.
We had 32. The Raw after Mania was insane, right? So I think it's just hit or miss on this at this point now.
Yeah, I mean, I think that you're right, and I mean, like it's, how do I want to say this? Like it's, in the past, they've left shocking debuts for WrestleMania. Excuse me, for the Raw after WrestleMania, and there wasn't any. I think the closest one to a shock debut was, I guess, the week after Tommaso Ciampa appearing in a segment. But that's kind of about it. Everything was expected. There was no surprise, which again isn't always the worst thing. I don't think that we always need to be swerved and surprised. But I think you kind of come to expect that from the Raw after WrestleMania, which I think leads to these really high expectations, which leads to people being disappointed and being whiny and complaining like I am, that the Raw after WrestleMania is no longer what it used to be. I will say the Raw after WrestleMania historically has been my favorite episode of Raw of the entire year. I mean, I pose this question to you, Steve. Little side trail thought. What are some of your favorites Raw after Mania moments?
I'm good. Well, first off, I think the one that comes to mind right away is Lesnar coming back against Cena. I think, truthfully, I think that was the biggest pop I've ever heard Lesnar get, and it was still like the internet community ruined it. We knew he was coming, but they held it off long enough. Just that hit of the music, the guitar, and Cena just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I think that one there really, really stands out for me. What else is there? You hit me with a couple of yours, sure, because I'm trying to think of a few.
You know what's kind of crazy? The internet has been ruining Raw after Manias for much longer than people think and can remember. Wrestling boards and message boards back in 2003 had the rumors that Goldberg had finally made the jump over to WWE. Now, mind you, wrestling forums and boards were a very small pocket of the wrestling fandom back in 2003, 2002. Kayfabe wasn't fully dead back then because the internet wasn't as prevalent. Most people were still on dial-up. But the thing is, when it's Raw after Mania, who are the fans? The fucking people at the message boards and wrestling forums back in 2003. Yeah. So if you go back and watch the Raw after WrestleMania 19, when The Rock comes out in the final segment to brag about how The Rock has done it all. The Rock took that candy ass Stone Cold Steve Austin and whooped his ass all over Seattle. The promo of The Rock has done it all, and then people start with the Goldberg chants. Goldberg. And even as a kid, I was just like, what? Goldberg's coming out, and the fans are kind of ruining it, but it's still one of my favorite moments because The Rock is The Rock and is so good at playing it off. He's hearing these Goldberg chants, and I still remember The Rock saying, "Oh, you guys think you're smart. You guys know about Goldberg, huh? You guys know about Ida Goldberg, The Rock's accountant? Congratulations." Of course, eventually Goldberg comes out and then spears the living hell out of The Rock. That's one of my favorite Raw after Mania moments. Never thought I'd say that I would love a Goldberg segment, but I did love that particular Goldberg segment. But I'm extremely biased when it comes to anything 2003 Hollywood Rock, but I would say that's probably my favorite.
I'll say that is probably one of the best sells of the spear I've ever seen as well. Like he looked like he actually got torn right in half, and that floppy fish out of water cell was incredible. He was in that white tank top, right? Like the white cutoff, I think he was in. I
can't remember. He might have been in that. He might have been in his douchey Hollywood jacket that he was wearing back in the day.
Maybe.
But either way, like the wrestling internet fandom has been around for much longer than people think. It's just now you could say that everyone is part of the IWC. Back then, it was a very small pocket. But now it's almost everybody, right? Because everybody has ease of access to rumors, predictions, and dirt sheets.
Yeah, speaking of dirt sheets, something very hot off the press that we were talking about before we came on the air. WWE reportedly interested in GCW.
That's so bizarre.
Wow. Would you ever have thought that I would have read that headline to you?
No, considering like WWE's constantly, well, not constantly, but like when they get compared to AEW, they're like, yeah, well, like we're not about blood and guts. And then what does AEW do? They create a freaking pay-per-view called Blood and Guts. But yeah, like WWE has always tried to distance itself from the deathmatch style of professional wrestling, and then here they are buying the poster child of death matches in professional wrestling, potentially, of course.
Yeah, potentially. Like I was reading the headline, and Brett Lauderdale, who is one of the main guys at GCW, apparently those guys had a full-fledged executive suite provided to them from WWE. He's posted on Twitter, and the caption is, "My close personal friend Stephanie McMahon." And it's him and Stephanie at WrestleMania, him in GCW gear, and Stephanie with her cheeky like little business look on her face. I don't think this is rumors. I think there's a lot more to this that we see. Like obviously the Peacock, well, we don't get as much of the notice of Peacock up here in Canada, but the Peacock subscriptions are doing probably just as well as the WWE network from what I'm hearing in the States, and that's not good for Peacock, especially with how much they invested in WWE. So is this going to be a positive, maybe bringing over, this is my question to you, bringing over more so some of the hardcore fans that WWE has lost over the years?
I will say this, yes, but let's live in the pie in the sky world where WWE has bought GCW.
Yeah.
Okay. You can throw out whatever notion or dreams of seeing GCW superstars, if we need to call them that, or GCW style matches on Raw or SmackDown. It's just not happening. It's gonna, if they buy GCW, it's going to be to bolster their streaming catalog. Streaming is all the rage right now. Every platform and every major media outlet is wanting to bolster their streaming capabilities, and professional wrestling is seen as a really easy buy. Like it gets views. Right, like even right down to like AEW potentially making these moves. So if WWE can just continue to bolster the lineup of things that they can offer on streaming platforms, it's just it's money printing for WWE. From a business standpoint, I think it's a great purchase, and it is a great way to bring, I guess, a more mature eye without diluting or damaging the actual WWE brand and name. It could end up being a very similar purchase to Evolve Wrestling, where when they bought Evolve Wrestling continued as Evolve Wrestling for quite a while, and it was just to bolster the lineup of things that were available on the WWE network at the time. It could just be that. I don't think that you're going to be seeing Rey Mysterio in a barbed wire steel cage match against Matt Cardona. I don't think that's going to be happening anytime soon.
Well, you actually mentioned something very interesting there with the likes of Matt Cardona. Two ways that we could look at this. Is this a potential first step into a long road of a crossover that everyone dreams of AEW and WWE, which, yes, okay, I'm dreaming in fantasy world, but then you look at the other side of it, Matt Cardona has not had a lot of good things to say about WWE since he left. And then you got the likes of Jon Moxley, the Briscoes, guys that are very heavily active, Sean Waltman, previously X-Pac, like these guys that are all either ex-WWE or under contract with Ring of Honor and AEW, we're not going to get those guys in GCW if this purchase is made. That's gone now. So some of the main figureheads are gone.
But
correct?
You will get those guys, Steve, when it comes to a backlog catalog of archived footage that WWE would own. And that's the point I'm trying to make. I think that that's where they see the value in on-demand streaming. I don't think that they see value in GCW and live streaming. with like a live event. I just think that they see the value similar to what they saw in WCW in the large catalog of footage that they would be able to get from something like GCW, which is why I'm shocked that Tony Khan was able to basically steal Ring of Honor the way that he did, because I really believe that WWE was all about buying that video archive. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think that this is setting up a crossover. I do think that might be a little bit too pie in the sky. But it will create a world where WWE owns footage of guys like Matt Cardona and Moxley having these crazy ass death matches.
Yeah, we will see. It's like I said, this is very new. This is, well, it's April 15th today, and this came out today, so we've got a lot more news ahead of us in the upcoming weeks. So we'll see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, let's. I mean, we're kind of in the world of indie wrestling here. Why don't we talk very briefly about AEW and all even more rumored debuts that Antonio Keg, I can't remember his indie name, Cesaro, might be making his all elite debut alongside everybody that WWE is either firing, letting go, or isn't re-signing. I'm
gonna let you run with this because your face says it all, Santi. Your face says it all.
I love Cesaro. How is it that I'm uninterested in this? I'm uninterested in the potential of Cesaro going to AEW because, I mean, we look at one side of things. WWE didn't use Cesaro. WWE like butchered Cesaro and buried him. No, they fucking didn't. Cesaro always had television time. Just because they're not always like in the championship picture or winning world championships doesn't mean that the talent is buried or underutilized. Cesaro was on television every night. The reason we knew he was so good was because WWE put him in front of us as often as they did, right? Yep. He always had prevalent spots, whether it was on Monday Night Raw, SmackDown, and even pay-per-views, with even main eventing some pay-per-views with the likes of Roman Reigns. The reason we know Cesaro is so good is because he was on television so much with WWE. So let's get that out of the let's throw that notion out that WWE buried Cesaro and underutilized Cesaro, because they didn't. They just didn't put a world title on him. All right, we can't just always base the merit of somebody's career based on the amount of world titles that they hold.
If we're gonna do that, erase Scott Hall, erase Jake the Snake Roberts,
Bingo.
Erase Owen Hart from history. Like this, I completely agree with you. Please continue.
So then we go into AEW, where we have all of these ex-WWE guys that are going there. And on paper, everybody gets really excited. Oh, like we're finally going to get like that Cesaro main event run, this Ruby Soho main event run, yada, yada, yada. And then we don't actually get that from the talent that they bring over from WWE. Look at Ruby Soho. Look at Tony Storm. Dare I say, potentially maybe even look at the likes of Keith Lee.
Just about to jump on Keith Lee, because you said something about a month ago or a month and a half ago on one of our podcasts where you said it's great that Keith Lee has come into All Elite Wrestling because he deserves to still be in the spotlight. But you said he's going to be in a tag team in 2 months. What's just happened?
Yeah. And
what's just happened?
This is what happens when your roster is so bloated with so much talent, either homegrown talent or external talent that you're bringing in from WWE, and you only have 3 hours of television throughout the entire week. I'm not saying that like you need to make AEW Dynamite 3 hours long, because please no, you might want to make Rampage 2 hours, but is that enough?
No,
right? I don't think that's enough. Right? The other solution is a third show, or to turn AEW Dynamite into 3 hours, which at this point, then you're just becoming as obnoxious as Monday Night Raw.
Yeah. There
comes a point where you can have a plethora of riches that you're not going to utilize. And I'm almost certain that Cesaro is going to turn into that, unless, of course, the idea is to rebuild Ring of Honor around the likes of Cesaro and Samoa Joe's of the world, right? If that's what they plan on doing with Cesaro, I could see this working, because Cesaro will get TV time, screen time. Yeah. But just know, the reason Cesaro is so good and the reason every wrestling fan wants to see him succeed in this craft is because WWE featured him prominently for us.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, and I completely agree. And the likes of Cesaro, Samoa Joe, it's almost like someone is debuting every week these days on, it doesn't matter if they're a big name or a small name. Like you look at this past week on Dynamite, we had the likes of Satnam Singh, the ex NBA basketball player.
Yeah.
Do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
Exactly. So my point being, it's like they just keep filling their roster. And yes, Tony Khan, I understand you are an absolute billionaire and you can afford to pay these astronomical wages, but sooner or later you're gonna have to look at your loss, like the losses you're taking on the salaries that you're paying. Like you've got the likes of, he has to predominantly put CM Punk on television every week because CM Punk's getting paid $3 million a year, $3.5 million a year, right? The likes of Jericho is getting the same thing. You've just signed Paige Van Zant, who has literally done nothing, but she's getting paid an astronomical amount of money. So you're bringing in the likes of Cesaro, you bring in the likes of Samoa Joe, you've got Jay Lethal, all these Ring of Honor guys. Is it not a better idea just to then separate and almost have that full brand split instead of merging this AEW Ring of Honor talent and trying to fit them on both shows? Because I think with Cesaro and, like you said, with Samoa Joe, you could really build a massive, quote, indie feud and build Ring of Honor. Bring Ring of Honor out of the 230, 300 people in the stadium or the arena to, you know, a Detroit Coliseum, a Caesars Arena, or a Little Caesars Arena, or a Scotia Bank Arena here in Toronto. You could put Ring of Honor on that level if you book it right with talent that you've got on this AEW card. Just throw them down there. Build a solid women's division. Build a solid like world title and put the Ring of Honor television title that Joe's holding right now.
Yeah.
Put the television title almost as your IC title and just book it well. That's the one thing Tony Khan has always struggled to do, in my opinion, is he has struggled to book well creatively and consistently. You know, Punk's feuding with, you know, the likes of what are they called? The Latino tag team.
Yeah.
He's feuding with them this. Yeah, he's feuding with Pentagon this week, but 2 weeks ago he was feuding with like a jobber. This is where I struggle with AEW.
Yeah, I think I'm 100% with you. I mean, again, I'm excited to have the likes of Cesaro potentially on more television because he's good. But they, believe it or not, like, as people might argue against me, he had plenty of television time in WWE.
He did.
And I don't know if AEW can offer the same amount of television time when they're constantly bringing in all this talent that they have to justify their purchase of, right? And this is with like the likes of Kenny Omega still being out with injury, right? Yeah. Once Kenny Omega comes in, what's going to happen to the main event picture? Like, who's going to get pushed out? When they get pushed out of the main event picture, are they going to get pushed out of television entirely, like some of these other major talent has been pushed out of television? Or are they going to go into some tag team feud, or maybe they'll actually do something interesting with them, like how they're doing with William Regal and his stable and Yuta and whatnot. Again, I keep sounding like the biggest WWE mark on the planet, but I think credit needs to be given to WWE for elevating Cesaro the way that they did. And we need to stop with this notion that just because he wasn't given the world championship, that he didn't grab the brass ring. The brass ring is getting television time. That is the most important thing. You got to remember that these people don't get paid more for holding titles.
No,
they get paid the exact same amount, whether they're holding a title or not. Part of the reason why Shawn Michaels never wanted to be world heavyweight champion past 2002, because he knows that that's just like arbitrary accolades that don't make you any more money in the long run. Like your contract and your salary is still the same. Getting TV time and prominent TV spots is like, that's the holy grail of WWE television. And Cesaro was on our television screens every week, week in, week out.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well,
I've actually got one since we did speak a bit about AEW. I want to talk about quickly a very interesting interview that we saw your favorite Maxwell Jacob Friedman have with
Hawani?
Ariel Hawani. I want to get into this because it's very rare in professional wrestling where contract discussions come up 2 years before a contract is up. Is Maxwell Jacob Friedman, MJF, an absolute legend and genius when it comes to business? Or is he setting himself up for failure? January 1st, 2024 is the day his contract expires with Tony Khan. And he has said already he is not re-signing. What is your opinion on this, man?
I mean, like, as a wrestling fan and as a fan of drama, I love it.
Yeah.
This is a terrible business move. This is a terrible fucking business move because if I'm Tony Khan and I'm not gonna get a signature from MJF, you know what I'm gonna do? Okay, I'm just not gonna give you TV time.
Yep.
like that. Like that's what WWE would do to you.
Yep.
100%. That's what WWE would do to you. And if Tony Khan is smart, I understand that like this is one of his golden eggs, but it's not like his biggest moneymaker. If Tony Khan is willing to let go of Cody Rhodes, he's willing to let go of MJF. I'm just saying that. I think it's a terrible business move because again, now you're actually giving I think fans that maybe don't understand contract negotiations as much, maybe younger fans might think that like, well, this is MJF taking the power for himself. No, that's actually giving the power to the contract holder, who is Tony Khan. Tony Khan can decide to bury this guy now if he wants to. Make
Absolutely.
him lose 100 times in a row if he wants to, and completely devalue the name of MJF once he hits the open market. This is biting the hand that feeds you.
Actually, I think that was commented. I think Ariel Hawani actually said that in the interview. Are you not really like almost burying yourself doing this? And I think MJF's one quote, and I loved it, was, "I've already know what my number is, and the number has pretty much already been agreed to by another company, and that other company being WWE has already reached out and apparently talked to him and said like, this is what we see in the future."
Okay,
so
but real quick, I'll throw this a quick question to you.
Yeah.
What if Tony Khan all of a sudden decides to make this Stardust 2.0? Will that offer still stand? I highly doubt it. Right? This is what I'm trying to get at.
Mm-hmm.
Tony Khan still has all the power. He can make him fucking Stardust 2.0. Right?
Yeah.
He can make him have a love triangle with a mop. All right. Wrestling bookers are petty. All right. This is the shit that they do. They'll make you have a feud with a mop. They'll make you carry around a head. All right. They're very fucking petty. And you're putting yourself in a position. You're putting yourself in front of the sniper crosshairs.
Oh, 100%. And even though he's got probably the most arguably entertaining storyline in AEW right now with Wardlow, that could end so quickly if he doesn't tread the line. And he is really on that line, on that proverbial thin ice, and I can see the cracks forming by the end of this year. He's got one more year on his contract. I don't see MJF doing a lot of big things in AEW come next year.
Or we're getting worked.
Hey, if he's working us, bless him. He's just gone to another echelon of like carrying that character outside of television. Yeah. And I love it.
Like if we're getting worked and he knows that he's re-signing with AEW and him and Tony Khan are just laughing it up, and all these rumors are just like the rumors that there's like friction between them are just BS and it's just us getting worked, then that's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Because it gets people talking about like what's next for MJF, what's next for MJF, et cetera, which, you know, keeps you relevant in the eyes of fans when wrestling isn't on TV. And that's huge to be able to continue to be a name that is talked about when you're not on television. That's huge.
Yeah, exactly. In the comments, let us know what you guys think. Are we getting worked, or is this real?
I mean, like, it's almost such a dumb business decision to do what he's doing that I almost think that this is it's got to be a work.
Some sort of work.
Yeah, because it is incredibly stupid. Like in not just in WWE terms, in professional sports as well.
Yeah.
Right.
But here's the thing: being on Ariel Helwani, though, are you really gonna like do a shoot promo on like one of the most respected combat sports journalist podcasts? Like that's, for me, that's ballsy. Like it's Ariel Helwani. Like, I mean, are you really gonna like go into character and lie?
MJF is always in character. I watched the video of him roasting somebody in a wheelchair at a fan signing. Right, I saw him roast an 8-year-old girl saying that his your mom should have swallowed. Like MJF is always on character when a camera is on him. I think he's too smart to not be calculating with the words that he's saying that he knows are going to be heard by hundreds of thousands of people.
Yeah. We'll see what happens. It'll be an interesting one, that's for sure.
All right, Steve. What else do we want to talk about today?
I think we went over Brock Lesnar, right?
Oh no, we haven't talked about Brock Lesnar. This is kind of a non-story. So I guess he was booked for WrestleMania Backlash. At the very least, that's what the advertisements allegedly said. I've never actually seen them. This was supposed to be for May 8th, and it was, I guess, supposed to be perhaps a confrontation in the blow off to Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar. And now all of a sudden he's not booked for this show, and people are saying that he was never meant to be on the show, that it was all just like a, I don't know, loss in translation mistake. I don't know how you lose that in translation, that Brock Lesnar is going to be there or not. But there's also just like all of these rumblings that Brock Lesnar is unhappy that he was originally supposed to be the one that was supposed to go over on Roman. But like, remember when I said that, like, you know, Shawn Michaels never wanted the title because like it just like doesn't matter? I don't think Brock Lesnar gives a shit about the titles. I really don't. I really think he's just there to make his money, and I can respect that. So I think these rumors that he didn't go over, yada yada yada, are bogus. I don't think he gives a shit.
Yeah, I think one thing that comes to mind is when he yeeted the Universal title at Vince after a show. But the one thing with new Brock, and I'm gonna say new Brock, I'm gonna say Cowboy Brock.
Sure.
I really think this is a Brock Lesnar that was enjoying his overall time in this run with Roman. He genuinely seemed like he was having fun, which is something we've never really seen from Lesnar. We saw it with the Money in the Bank for a little spell, but this one, it was months of smiling face Brock Lesnar that we never really got in any of his career.
Yeah, even when he was face, he was always like the mean guy, right?
Exactly. So I really think maybe like Brock could be frustrated because he was actually having a lot more fun, and maybe he wanted that to continue. Maybe he found his happy place in this. So I'm not trying to be his therapist, but what I'm saying is like it could be his frustration stemming from, I've done something new, I've reinvented myself, give me more. You know? So I personally feel that maybe that could be a side of it. That's just my own personal opinion. But
yeah, I mean, I guess it's possible. I guess we won't really know. I don't know if now the plan is to have Roman Reigns have one-off feuds until something like SummerSlam, like we saw the Nakamura confrontation, if we want to call it that. Who knows if that's what's being set up for WrestleMania Backlash, kind of like how they did with Cesaro. I believe it was Cesaro versus Roman at WrestleMania Backlash. I might be misremembering that, but maybe that's something along the lines of what they're doing here. But another angle that's big on WWE at the moment that I told people from day one, this is brilliant. This is brilliant. If they keep doing this is brilliant. And everyone's like, why would they do this to him? Blah, blah, blah. Why does WWE keep changing names and gimmicks? Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel, might be one of the best things going on in WWE right now. And and Steve, you and I had a private conversation when I specifically said, this is genius if they keep poking at this. If they keep doing the whole, you're Elias shtick, then it's brilliant. Because this is why it's brilliant, Steve. It's brilliant because this is the first time in in ever, potentially, when somebody has had a complete gimmick change and a complete overhaul and name change where they haven't treated the fans like complete idiots.
Yeah.
Right? Look at Umaga. Never acknowledged that he was Jamal from 3 Minute Warning. Right?
Yeah.
Rosie never acknowledged that he was Rosie from 3 Minute Warning. There's so many examples of that. But now they know that, wrestling fans are smart. They have the internet, yada, yada, yada. They're finally treating us like we're not idiots that can't comprehend that these are the same person. And I love it. And I absolutely love it, because we have the classic comedy trope of everyone around being quote unquote oblivious. And then we have the real world character in Kevin Owens being like, what the fuck? This is Elias, who is playing the role of, I feel, the wrestling community. Yeah,
no, you and I must be on some sort of frequency right now, because I was going into this next as well. Like I had it pulled up. I think the one thing that they're doing really well, forget the on-screen stuff, it's the actual trolling online. Like that photo of Elias with Ezekiel with his arm over, obviously edited. and the caption that Elias posted is, people would say it's edited. And it's perfect. It's perfect, because the internet, IWC is going to go to the internet and be like, this is not Ezekiel, this is Elias. And the WWE's already been like, yeah, we know you're going to do this, so we're going to get at you right away before you can. And they've done it so well. I thought this was the stupidest thing when he originally walked out. And you were like, no, this is going to be awesome.
If they do it right, this is going to be brilliant.
Kevin Owens, again, is one of those ones like Seth Rollins that can carry a storyline by himself. Like he could build to WrestleMania and have a debut of someone awesome like he did with Cody. But Kevin Owens is still one of those ones that can come out of getting his ass kicked by Stone Cold Steve Austin, which he carried that storyline. And now he's going to carry this for Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel. And I will say the little hint of like sparkle and perfection was last week with Tommaso.
Oh my god, yeah.
Like the worst part was watching Tommaso Ciampa try and keep a straight face while cutting this promo and be like, no, you're Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel. And like the sparkle in his eye trying to cut that, and Kevin Owens like completely marking out and getting frustrated, and I was just like, how are these guys keeping a straight face? Like, this is live television. I'd be cracking up. I'd be cracking up. And like the little Irish announcer, the guy there, what's his name? I can't remember. His face, like just watching his face quiver, trying not to laugh. Oh man, this Santi could be the story of the year. I'm calling that right now. This could be, for the wrestling community, it will get a trophy for story of the year for 2022 if they do this right.
Yeah, if they do this right, this could get over as all hell. Like, I could see this going up all the way to Vince McMahon. Like Vince McMahon calling him Elias's younger brother, and Kevin Owens coming in like, what the fuck? Right? Like, that's what I want to see. I want Kevin Owens to be the persona of the internet wrestling community, the one that thinks that they're smarter than everybody else, right? If the one who thinks that he's the one that understands the truth. That is what I want to see from this feud moving forward, and nobody else except Kevin Owens acknowledges that he's Elias. That is what I want to see moving forward. I want everyone to acknowledge him as Elias's younger brother, Ezekiel, except for Kevin Owens. That's where the gold is. That's where the magic is. And that's where you can have some really great, hilarious feuds. Trust me, you can have great comedy gimmick feuds. Immediately I think of Mizdow and like it's giving me those vibes. And we saw how over Damian Sandow got with the change of gimmick from like the serious like intellectual of the masses gimmick into this funny stunt double gimmick. Everybody thought it was stupid, and it got over as all hell. I think this is what we're gonna get with Elias's younger brother Ezekiel.
Okay, so I want to continue on to like my point of how they are doing this so well on the internet. So for one, Elias has changed his Instagram
Not
to
Elias.
I am not Elias WWE. The first comment in the comments of the photo is Madcap Moss saying, "I think I took this picture." And then there's other people like I was there that day, like oh, who was it? Cesar Bonini, one of the, I believe he's one of the NXT guys. But like there is just wrestlers playing into this. All the NXT guys are being like, "Hey, I remember when this picture was taken," and just reading these comments, and it's just like, are they really gonna run with this well? And Kevin Owens almost gets straitjacketed at this point, the way they're going with it, and I'm all
Yeah,
about it.
if they're gonna go with an angle where Kevin Owens gets gaslighted into going insane, I think that's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, I mean, like there's ups and downs, right? To like WWE changing a gimmick or changing names. I think that there's probably better examples of it actually being a good thing than a bad thing. I just think that we have this recency bias of like, oh my god, like these guys like Pete Dunne and Walter, like they were such badasses in NXT. Why don't we keep them as they are in WWE? Like I understand that and I'm with you, but I promise you there's more positive examples of gimmick changes that have led into blossoming careers. Okay, like if The Rock stayed as Rocky Maivia, we wouldn't have The Rock. All right, if Stone Cold Steve Austin stayed as the blonde, beautiful, stunning Steve Austin,
Yeah.
we wouldn't have if John Cena stayed as the prototype, all right, we wouldn't have the Ruthless Aggression era. If Batista stayed as Leviathan or stayed as Deacon Batista, we wouldn't have the Animal. If Triple H stayed as Hunter Hearst Helmsley, we wouldn't have the Game Triple H.
And the number one of all time, if Mark Calloway had stayed as Mark Calloway in WCW, he would never have been the Undertaker, and we would never have had the greatest gimmick of all time.
Yes. So what I'm just cautioning people who have this recency bias, that are upset that some of their favorite NXT folks' names have been changed. Just trust me when I tell you history is in the favor of this. This is generally good steps forward.
For those about to like go off in the comments that we are saying that Ezekiel is going to be the next Stone Cold Steve Austin, Undertaker, Rock, or Triple H, we are not saying that. Okay, so before you guys decide to go off, we are not saying that at all. What we are saying is history does kind of protect and, focus on positive gimmick changes over the ones that we all remember as the negative. So just bear with this storyline. I was not a believer. Sorry, a believer. Shout out Bo Dallas. I was not a believer of this gimmick at the start. I was very confused. Santi said, "Just wait. I am so over on this right now, and it's entertaining as all hell, and I cannot wait to see what the coming weeks are." I just want to like, yeah, how we were doing with Veer, like where is Veer? I want to know who the next conversion in the locker room is, and the backstage segment is, to like really frustrate Kevin Owens. Like it was Tommaso Ciampa last week. Who do you got this week, Santi, that is going to be in this backstage?
Oh man, Jeez, I would love to see RK Bro. RK Bro getting in on this
Riddle
would put this over. It would put this into the stratosphere of over. If Riddle can just be like, man, you kind of look like someone that I know, like, and they can play off into that. And I think that there's so much comedy gold. Steve, when you think of Gregory Helms, do you think of Gregory Helms or the Hurricane?
Hurricane.
The Hurricane, guys. comedy changes and comedy gimmicks are a good thing. They're necessary in order to be able to get away from like the seriousness and that professional wrestling can dive into sometimes. We need this, all right? This is a good thing. This is absolutely a good thing. Just trust WWE when it comes to these gimmick changes. And the reason I want you to be more open to name changes and gimmick changes is because of this, all right? If they have a gimmick change or a name change, it means WWE needs to justify it, and they're going to give them TV time. All right. Yeah. TV time, as I've already talked about in this podcast, that's the real championship. That's the real gold. That's the real currency in WWE. All right. They need to justify why they're changing Walter to Gunther and whatever that guy's name is to Ludwig Kaiser. And what happens? TV time, immediate, like major spot on SmackDown, both of them. Just be open to the idea of this happening, and it's going to happen a lot more. All right. Just be open to it. Just be open to it is all I'm saying.
Well, I think we hit the nail on the head on that one, Santi. I'll take your line this week. Santi, where can the people find you?
The people can find me over on twitch.tv/Santi's I'm streaming there 6 nights a week, so head on over there. And of course, you can always find me on TikTok, so that is @StraightShoot in the comment section. And of course, leave us your suggestions as to what to do on TikTok. We read them all. Steve, where can the people find you?
Twitch.tv/Mr. Tesh. I have boosted up the Twitter on the Straight Shoot side, so is Twitter Straight Shoot PC. If you ask what PC is again, Santi, I swear to God. And the final one is, guys, I am on the Straight Shoot TikTok as well. I read all the comments. I try and get as active in replying back to all you guys as possible. So just be patient. There is thousands of comments a week. And for everyone asking for suggestions for videos for us to do, all you guys have to do is just comment your suggestion in the last video that you see posted. Those are the ones we normally take from. So other than that, what a podcast, Santi. And look forward to talking to you next week.
All right. Cheers. Enjoy your WrestleMania hangover.